So let's take some questions. I like questions. What do you guys got? Hey everybody, it's Dave. We're back with the Maker Zone, and I am actually excited today to be out here at the F10 incubator, which is from SIX, the Swiss Stock Exchange. Very pleased to actually meet for the second time only Andreas Iten, who's one of the co-founders of the F10, and Thomas Landis. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit?
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here. I'm Andy. I'm one of the co-founders of F10. F10 used to be a corporate incubator just for SIX. Now we open it up and we collaborate with the startup. So it's now a multi-corporate incubator and accelerator. I worked for SIX for about 6 years. Yes, I'm a corporate guy, but I like the startups.
You don't look like a corporate guy.
Well,
I look like
a corporate shirt.
Yeah, it's a corporate shirt.
Okay.
Yeah, Thomas Landis. I actually worked since 1998 for SIX, and I've pretty much got a background in banking and payments, as I'm a payment expert. I have a background in being an innovation manager, which is very hard in a former monopolist. So this is actually why this is so interesting what we are doing here from a SIX point of view, because you really see the culture clash you're having. And I just did payment, where I learned a lot of culture clash. You want to change something with existing systems, and this is actually what it's all about. What we're trying to ease here in F10 to really destroy a little that culture clash of having something new with the old existing business models or systems.
What I saw like a year ago was we met first at the Kaufleuten. I don't know if you remember.
I remember.
But you were on stage and you were like the visionary guy and saying, we're going to launch this and do this and everything. And now you've actually done it. So I was here just a week ago it was kind of like the opening of looking for the first time on that stage over there. We can put in footage afterwards of the startups. And I liked what I saw. I mean, it's early stage stuff, but it's the right level of promotion that we need around here. So, I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about what are the ambitions, what are the goals you'd love to see? What does success look like for you?
Absolutely. We started as just an internal innovation lab, like there are many of them in the whole industry. And then we always had the ambition, to open it up, not just doing it for one company, to open it up, to get access to the ecosystem, to get access to, the guys who was outside the company, in order to make sure that we can really foster innovation in SIX. And then we said, okay, it doesn't really make sense to do it alone, because the power, we're a big company, we have 4,000 people, but to make it alone is that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to open it up. So we really started to take external guys into the lab as from the beginning. Then we did a little exercise with just one startup, did a little program, and almost a year ago we decided, now let's scale it up. We do a real accelerator program for very early stage teams, and we just started our first batch a week ago. Now we have 10 startups in here. They work for 6 months here, and the ambition is to help them to create a nice product, to link them up with our owners, customers, with the whole FinTech scene here in Switzerland, and to create a real value for both sides, for the startups and for the corporates.
People have been quite critical of Switzerland as a hub for FinTech, because London is so far ahead, and London, right? And what I am seeing is that over the past 3 years, a lot of good people have started up good stuff here. And that's just not shameless promotion for it. I really believe in this. Like, we're working together. Also, what some of the other banks are doing and some of the other, kind of the startup associations in Switzerland, it seems to be getting traction.
Yeah, really.
It's the same feeling?
We had that feeling as well as you had. And once we were actually looking for applications for the first batch, we had more than 167 applications from all over the world. And when we really looked at those which we really wanted to work together, were mostly actually the Swiss. Out of our 10 startups, 6 are from Switzerland, which we were very surprised of. And we were very surprised of how mature they actually are. So it's if you look at the FinTech startup which is working in here, it's not mostly those students which are just coming off university. It's actually those people who have worked long in the industry and see there is a problem which cannot be solved by existing companies. And they say, well, I am at that age of my life and I really know the problem I can solve and I want to try it. And they that's what actually they were applying here and coming to us.
Do you know that's the hugest asset we seem to have as an industry, right? Like over the next 10 to 20 years, we all might end up changing jobs and companies and everything, but the fact is that finance is a huge industry for us. And I forget how many hundreds of thousands of jobs it is here, but there's a lot of competence and people who are frustrated with the existing system and want to change it, and they exit because we're paid well. So they've been able to build up enough savings where they can actually launch stuff, unlike other companies, other countries.
But what we also learned is this good payment is actually, your opportunity costs are so high if you start a startup, because you could have this great salary and actually have an easy life in that area. And on the other hand, you have this big risk if you open up a startup and your future is so uncertain. This is actually also killing a little bit the startup.
But I gotta tell you, there's like this soul thing. Like I work in a big bank, and I see people's souls being tortured. They know the direction that they want to go, and not being able to do it. Then there's that thing of, do I need to focus on the pension? I got enough for my 2 kids. I really want to launch this thing. And what I'm seeing is that more and more people are taking the chance and trying to do it.
Absolutely.
So, and what we heard from those guys, since we have them here for 2 weeks, they said, well, this here helps me so much because you know the guys and you really can help me to get the right contacts. And I think such accelerators programs here are not just because we give a free roof, it's because we put them a little bit in the light, it's something like a spotlight of those companies which are very critical at the moment if it comes to startups. Because if you look at them, banks, their main issue is actually they have to manage risks, and this is totally the opposite of doing something quick and fast like the startups try to do. And we really try to solve that gap a little bit, or ease that gap a bit.
Actually, Phil, can you say, what was that question that we saw the other day on Quora? The one about the second one.
People, what are FinTech companies and how do they operate?
No, the other one. The other
people working together. That's how can nerds and business people work together on FinTech?
Yeah, how can nerds and business people work together on FinTech? Is that what this is about? Basically, is putting together different types of people than you get just inside a bank.
Yes, absolutely. I think, if you have just the nerds and they do something, you will end up with a very nice technical solution, but most probably you won't have a chance to go on the market because it's too technical. It doesn't really solve a problem. If you have just the business people, they have maybe nice ideas, but you end up with hundreds of PowerPoint slides and you don't really know if it's useful. So linking these guys together create something which is more than just slides or a technical solution. So it creates something new, and that's what we strongly believe. And when you bring together the startups and the corporates, it's actually the same. You bring the nerds, maybe nerds with a business background, together with the corporates, and together they can create something which is really accelerating our industry, I guess. And coming back to the point of Switzerland, I think, because Switzerland, when you compare it to all the different hubs like London, Singapore, etc., has definitely some disadvantages, and they have been stated many times. I'm not going to repeat it, but yeah, Switzerland has also a big advantage. It's small. When you have to go to another bank here from F10, it's just a 5 minutes tram. People are living close together and makes things very, it's like a little bit, let's say, Silicon Valley style. So you can walk out, walk in. It's very easy. It's not that long travels and etc. So that makes it really a special place.
At the same time, I have this fear. The other day, I interviewed someone. We didn't take an episode with it, but basically, they're trying to launch inside the banking structure. This is B2B in the first instance, and white labeling of a user experience. And their sense was, we're going to bet on the banks on this one. So they're only going to make something better and quicker for the banks to launch, because they say the Swiss consumer will never switch to a thing that's a separate brand. They're going to stick with whatever bank. Is that true, or do you think that people will start to trust other brands over time here?
Well, it depends maybe what generation. From a macroeconomical point of view, you don't need the banks. We all know that. You just need somebody who has money and who needs money. The question is this platform in between. If it's about money, it's all about trust and who you trust most. And the moment, my generation, they trust more the banks than they do technology providers. But if you look at, for example, they're under age of 25, how do they pay in the internet? They only have access to PayPal, to Apple Pay. They don't have access to credit cards because due to the Swiss law, or maybe because they don't have that salary, they don't get a credit card. Mm-hmm. So how will they ever pay in the internet, their most used medium, to buy something with a trusted partner like Apple, Google? So I think this will probably switch if this generation is getting older, because they are very much aware of how I'm going to pay in the internet with the PayPal, with the Google, with the Facebook, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they have a bank account because their parents opened it up for them. But so means actually the trust will go a little away.
But this seems a bit the asset and the liability of where you're coming from, right? The huge asset is you know everybody. So basically every financial institution in this country and the neighboring countries, you have a commercial relationship with. But the liability is being too much within the vertical of finance on payments, that one slice. How are you going to exit just doing payments and expand into other businesses? I mean, I come from a wealth management franchise, right? So Switzerland still has well over 20-25% of the world's private wealth. Will you attack into there as well, or how will you expand out over time? What's the vision?
I mean, that's a good point. It goes more a little bit in the strategy of, one of the corporate members of F10, it's 6, and because the governance is really special because we're owned by the banks, and actually the banks are our customers. We're most probably not, starting up something which directly attacks existing business of one of our stakeholders. So that's not the intention. So we're very much in the background, and we're also looking for, ideas and technologies on how to optimize, like mutualizing the cost of the banks for compliance things, for instance. That's things we are actually looking for. We're not in the front. We still believe that, a bank, if they make it with the user experience, if they can really creating product or user experience which is related to the young generation, that they can keep their customer base. I think I really believe that if they can make it. Otherwise, they will move away to other companies and they start to expand their value chain into the banking or finance industry. But at the end, we as an accelerator, together with the partners, we are not really the ones who want to create the next big, user experience thing.
But I was out in Singapore as well, and it seemed like, their thing was, we've been middleware for the world since forever, since industrialization, right? So still as it was still a bit colonial, they were producing then the world's VCRs for other brands that were shipped from, say, Japan, but it was actually shipped from Singapore, right? So, how do you not become just producing middleware for banks as an accelerator, or do you just want to focus on that because efficiency is
no? On one side,
so important.
On one side, we want to produce middleware for banks because we see there's actually the biggest need from a stockholder or from a corporate partner point of view. But if you look at the startups, and if you look also, for example, at 6, we do not want to get disrupted. So this is also one thing we look at.
Defense plays.
It is a defense plays. For example, we do know blockchain might be important in the future. Nobody knows it. So we must have a very good understanding of the technology. We must have a very good understanding of the products which are blockchain based. And this is what we're trying to do.
I remember one blockchain startup who was up on stage. Were there more?
Exactly. So what we do here, we sit here together with the startup. We try to help them as much as possible to understand the trend and to not miss the tipping point, because we don't want to miss any tipping point. And for example, one startup we have here, they're called Landity. What they are doing is actually, they say we want to build a layer over all peer-to-peer lending platforms on the world. So meaning me as a customer, I have access through my bank account, like to lending companies, like I have today to the Nasdaq or to the stock exchange. So from a 6 point of view, you could say now, well, okay, they try to actually attack our stock exchange because people will invest in that instead of something which is on the stock exchange, which would be totally nonsense.
Right.
Because here we learn actually how this can work, those peer-to-peer, and on the other hand, we pretty much know what the business model looks like, how they can earn, and if needed from a 6 point of view, we can invest in them.
Are you more like then Startup Bootcamp in London, who I'm going to see next week? So they basically work over their corporate partners and they get first bid on what they're seeing in the startups. And that's kind of how you're working as well.
Yes. I mean, the difference maybe to other accelerators is that we do not take equity. We have no fees. It's totally for free. So we give actually a little bit of money that they can pay their travel expenses. They get the space here. They get an educational program from us, but we do not take equity. That's a big difference to other accelerators. Just to mention that here, and it's all about bringing the nerd and the business guy together, so the startup and the corporate together, link them up. It can end up in investment, it can end up in a collaboration, it can end up in an acquisition, or it can end up in we just hire the team because they want to work for the corporate, for instance. That's the idea of the whole platform.
And it should be going to stay just FinTech, right?
It's just FinTech.
So that's the vision. It's just stay within.
It's no life science stuff, food or so. It's just FinTech.
And a little bit regulator tech.
Well, I consider that as part of FinTech, or
Yeah.
whatever, however you define FinTech.
Have you got any fraud monitoring stuff or proactive artificial intelligence stuff going towards RegTech?
Well, what we have is we have some guys called APX. What they want to build is actually an API for middle and smaller banks, which makes actually the regulations a little more fair. Because they say, smaller banks, they don't have that many staff members to really use regulation for their advantage. And so we're going to build a layer over this, an API layer, where actually you as a bank can hook up and make sure that all your regulations needs are like out of the box services from us. So this is what we have. We do have AIs. We do have a very promising chatbot in our program.
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen that?
Take a look,
Yes, that's very interesting. They say, and I saw that they're answering 85% of all the questions already right, which customers ask, for example, a credit card issuer. And whenever a question cannot be asked by the bot makes sure that the next free call agent is at the phone instantly and is answering questions.
So it goes live chat immediately.
Goes live chat immediately. Cool. So meaning actually from a customer point of view, I'm not as long in waiting line as I used to be. I mean, quicker introduction. I get the correct answer because the bot is always right. He can read the FAQs proper.
Is it in German, Swiss German? Is it in English?
It is at the moment in English. They had 2 trials with Indian banks. They have now a trial without it. But they say the language is not the problem. It's actually the algorithm behind it.
It's the context of the question.
So what we're working on with our contacts from SIX, of course, we're now asking our guys from Austria, for example. In Austria, SIX is one of the largest issuers. We're asking what are the questions the customers always asking. And we feed now the bot, or the chatbot gets now all those questions which are asked every day, like many hundred times at the
Do you know just selling that knowledge is going to be important? I've struggled getting that.
Yeah.
What do clients most ask about every day?
Yeah.
Is it unblock my credit card, or they also ask about the stock markets? If they ask about the stock markets, do they ask for a number off the Swiss Stock Exchange? Or do they ask for, does it affect me? Or does the Brexit have an impact on what I should read tonight? And I don't know the actual sequence of questions. I don't think anyone does.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to all learn. And I think just commercially packaging that knowledge would help everybody.
Yes.
Could be an MVP.
Yeah, it could. And to finish that, on one hand, the customer has a better experience because what he asked didn't take that many time, and the answer was finally correct. And on the other hand, the bank saves costs, which is fantastic, actually. So we have those guys here. What else? What was the question again?
Well, basically exiting payments.
Exactly, yeah.
How you're going to exit, but it sounds like you are outside just payments.
Yes.
You're in retail banking space mostly,
Yeah.
Although I took a look at Wealth Initiative the other day.
Yeah.
We did an episode off of it, which will be out soon. They're quite cool.
Yeah.
Because I tried to launch a couple of the similar things that they did and failed.
Yeah.
So I'm
Why
hoping
did
that
it fail?
I talked to him about it. Basically, in the art space, very difficult when you talk with clients and do the design thinking. They're not comfortable going digital with their artwork, and they're not comfortable lending their artwork. You might get back false copies. The insurance is a big issue, and it's hard to attack. But the attractive piece of artwork, what he's trying to do, is that Sotheby's, Christie's make all the money. So actually, banks are attacking another vertical. The revenue's out there, and we're not cannibalizing.
Absolutely.
So it's good and it's bad, and in all the things like that. So real estate. But my advice to him was start in real estate. because I think it's the easiest, and there's lots of geo tags, databases, and valuations. He can go get stuff for free.
Yeah,
So,
and you have some KPIs you can actually work on. You know how many square meters I need, what are the prices regarding. Yeah, I see.
what else? What's kind of, because we've already gone kind of 20 minutes. It's the average podcast time for our listeners. If you wanted to give your message to the world or your call to action for Switzerland, for what you're trying to do from the F10, which I really respect what you're trying to do, what would it be? Thomas, you go first. What's kind of what you'd love to see happen?
Well, at the moment, when I see working nerds together with business guys, what I see, the business guys are very into giving advices to the startups, which the startups are very interested in. But it's much more, We should stop just giving advices. We should start getting things done. This is what the startups really need. And this is what I want to see, that the business guys are saying.
Ideas to converting the get stuff done.
Yeah.
That's cool. And
So actually,
Andreas?
my vision here for F10 is basically that we will run those, startup programs every year, at least twice a year, 6 months, 10 startups, and create a lot of, ideas and a lot of, traction. So at the end of, maybe one program, we should have at least, one team who makes it on the market, who's successful, who creates value. It can be, maybe alone or together with a corporate or maybe as a consortium or something like that. That's really my vision, creating an impact. Not only, it doesn't have to be for one of these corporate members. Ideally, yes, because we invest here in that thing. But if you can create something which really creates a value for the financial industry or the startup scene, that's fine for me. I'm totally open what the outcome is, but impact is really important for me.
So we've got people everywhere trying to do the right thing, and that's what I like about this. I'm coming from the opposite perspective. I'm not a corporate sponsor, but we're talking with each other because I have white spots that I'm trying to fill, and things that I can't validate myself. And I reach in and say, oh, that can try to validate that hypothesis, etc. So I'm an innovation manager just like you are. So it's I think we can work on that on that basis. So I hope that helps you understand what's happening in Switzerland, and you got a real inside look into the F10. I didn't really know these guys before, so you're seeing it really authentically, and I'm happy about what you're doing. It's really cool. So thanks for watching. If you have questions, shoot them out to me on Twitter or Quora, or to these guys who are putting up their tags. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
So let's take some questions. I like questions. What do you guys got?